Welcome back to Impractical Privacy. I'm your host, Sudo. I want to start today with a scene many of you probably recognize. It's Saturday afternoon. It's hot, and I just want to take the kids to the arcade. I go to open a specific app to check rewards, or maybe just use a map to see if traffic on the interstate is backed up. And the app just blinks, it crashes, or it tells me Google Play services are required. And there I am, standing in my kitchen, my wife looking at me. Sudo, can we just go? And I'm deep in a permission manager, trying to figure out which toggle I flipped that broke my entire life. That right there, that's the convenience tax. We talk about privacy like it's this noble, abstract thing. But in reality, it's a series of micro frustrations. Today, we're going to talk about when that tax becomes too high to pay. But first, let's talk about why we pay it. Let's talk about PayPal. Earlier this month, PayPal admitted to what they called a coding error in their working capital system. Now, for the uninitiated, working capital is their business loan wing. It's where entrepreneurs go for a leg up. But here's the technical whoopsie. This wasn't some elite team of hackers in hoodies bypassing firewalls. This was an internal exposure. From July 1st to December 13th of 2025, the personal data of about 100 business users was just visible. Now you might hear 100 people and think, Sudo, that's nothing. Why are we lead-lining our houses over 100 people? It's not the quantity, folks. It's the quality. They lost what I call the big four: names, addresses, social security numbers, and date of birth. That's not just a leak. That's a starter kit for identity theft. If a bad actor has those four things, they don't need to be a master coder to ruin your life. They just need a telephone and a convincing voice. Think about the account takeover workflow. Picture a guy named Kevin. Kevin's info was in that 100-person leak. A scammer buys Kevin's big four on a form for maybe $50. They don't try to crack his 20-character password. Instead, they call his cell phone provider. They tell the support rep, "Hey, I'm Kevin. I lost my phone at the park while I was with my kids, and I need to put my number on this new SIM card I just bought." The rep asks for verification. The scammer gives them Kevin's full name, his home address, his social security number, and his birthday. To the rep, that is Kevin. The SIM swap happens. Suddenly, every forgot password link for Kevin's bank, his email, and his crypto exchange is sending a code straight to the scammer's pocket. And here's the most frustrating part: the persistence of that leak. If your credit card gets skimmed at a gas station, you call the bank, they cancel the card, and they mail you a new one with a shiny new number. The tax is temporary, but you can't easily reset your social security number. You can't change your date of birth. Once that data is out there, it's out there forever. The tax is permanent. You are now a high-risk individual for the rest of your life because of a coding error at a multi-billion-dollar company. So in this situation, how do we perform some impractical mitigation? First, the credit freeze. If you've not done this, do it today. Don't pay for those identity monitoring services. Monitoring is a smoke detector. It tells you when the house is already on fire. A credit freeze is a fire suppression system. It stops the credit from being granted in the first place. If the scammer tries to open a loan in your name, the lender hits a brick wall. Second is the multi-factor authentication pivot. This is why I am constantly shouting about hardware keys from the rooftops. If your social security number is leaked, a motivated bad actor can often talk their way past SMS-based recovery, but they cannot talk their way past a Titan or a YubiKey sitting on your desk or attached to your keyring. Without that physical touch, the door stays locked. The lesson here is simple, and it's a bitter pill. The moment we hand our data to a third party, we lose control of it. We can have the best OPSEC in the world, but we are still at the mercy of their coding errors. That's why we take the impractical route. That's why we self-host things. That's why we choose the friction of privacy over the convenience of being a sitting duck. Next, let's talk about that slab of glass and steel sitting in my pocket. For the last year or so, I've been daily driving a Pixel 9 Pro XL. Hardware-wise, it is a beast. The camera is incredible. The screen is buttery smooth. It's everything you'd want in a flagship phone. And software-wise, because I'm running GrapheneOS, it's a fortress. It's arguably the most secure private consumer device on the planet. But man, the tax is real. I'm going to be honest with you all. There have been nights, usually at like 1 a.m., where I'm just trying to get RCS messaging to work or a specific app to stop crashing, where the barrier to entry feels too high. I've had those moments where I'm plugging my phone in, just ready to flash it back to Pixel experience, just so things work. And if it happens to you, don't get in your feelings about it. Privacy isn't a religion. It's a practice. And sometimes the practice is exhausting. And it's a journey. I have flashed my phone back and forth so many times on principle alone. I should donate to Graphene just to cover my portion of their server fees. So where does GrapheneOS carry that convenience tax? First up, there's the sandboxed Google Play. This is a privacy miracle. It lets you run Google services as a regular, unprivileged app. It can't see your IMEI. It can't see your location unless you let it. But it's also a friction engine. Take push notifications. In the normal world, your phone just pings. In my world, I'm deep in the setting, giving an app unrestricted battery access and manually checking if the Play Services GCM toggle is flipped. All because I missed a message from my wife about picking something up for my kids. And then there's the banking wall. I've stood at the checkout counter, heart rate climbing, because my banking app decided to run an attestation check. It sees that I'm not on a Google-approved stock OS, and it just says no, access denied. Now I'm the guy at the register, the one that I used to see when I worked in retail, trying to log into a mobile website on a tiny screen because the app thinks I'm a hacker. And speaking of retail, that's where the perspective really shifts for me. Having spent years on the other side of the counter, I've seen how those point of sale systems are built. They aren't just there to take your money. They're there to take your identity. They want your phone number for loyalty, your email for receipts, and your location for market research. When you use a de-Googled phone, you're essentially ghosting the entire retail ecosystem. You aren't a data point anymore. You're a ghost in the machine. It feels great for your soul. But the gears of the modern world start to grind when they can't find you. You realize that the convenience of a free coffee or a streamlined checkout is just a bribe to let them keep tabs on you. When you refuse the bribe, you pay the tax in time, in effort, and sometimes in a little bit of social awkwardness. Is the fortress worth the friction? Usually, yes. But I'm not going to pretend the walls aren't heavy. Let's step away from the code for a second and look at the actual physical weight of being private. We talk about digital footprints, but what about the literal footprint in your pocket? I call this the EDC tax, the everyday carry. Most people leave the house with a phone, their car keys, and a wallet. Maybe a single house key. It's light, it's sleek, it's convenient. Now, look at my pockets. When I head out with my family, I'm carrying the sovereignty surcharge. First, there's the hardware keys. I don't just have a password. I have a physical multi-factor authentication. I've got a YubiKey on my main keyring and a backup tucked into a drawer somewhere. If I want to log onto my email on a laptop while I'm out, I'm fumbling with a USB-C stick like it's in 2005. It's a physical gatekeeper. It's secure, but it is a literal piece of plastic and metal that I have to account for. Then there's the phone. Most people have a case that holds their credit cards. Not me. I'm running a Pixel with GrapheneOS. It's a bit thicker, a bit heavier, and because I don't trust tap to pay, I'm carrying a physical wallet with physical cards. And don't even get me started on the car keys. You guys know I've got an older car. Its key is just a key. It doesn't track my GPS. It doesn't have a phone home to a corporate server to tell them how fast I took that turn on the way to the arcade. But the trade-off? I don't have a fancy app to remote start the AC while we're finishing up air hockey. I have to walk out to the lot, stick the metal into the lock, and deal with the heat and humidity myself. That is the physical tax. It's the extra 3 seconds at every door, the extra bulk in your jeans, the extra devices in your backpack. It's the mental checklist of, do I have my tokens? Do I have my keys? Do I have my offline maps downloaded? It's the friction of being a person instead of a data point. We've traded the lightness of being tracked for the heavy lifting of being free. And some days, when you're just trying to carry a toddler and a bag of groceries, that extra ounce of hardware feels like a pound. But then I remember that PayPal leak, and I remember that my keys are in my pocket, not sitting on a server in Virginia waiting for a coding error to hand them over to a stranger. I'll take the heavy keys pretty much every single time. Now, let's go into the home lab. I'm a big fan of Docker. I love the idea of one container, one job. But let's talk about the maintenance tax. If you use Google Photos, it just works. If you use a self-hosted solution like Immich or Nextcloud, you are the IT department. If the database gets corrupted during an update, or while I'm trying to show someone photos of that old car I saw on the freeway, I can't just call support. I am support. And this next one is the one that really hurts. If my self-hosted DNS, like Pi-hole or AdGuard Home, goes down, the internet stops working for the whole house. Now my wife can't get her work done, and the kids can't get on their games. At that point, privacy isn't just impractical, it's a household crisis. Is the sovereignty of owning my own data worth the 5 hours I spent last Sunday fixing a YAML file? Most days, I say yes. But we do have to be honest about the cost. So we've talked about the crashes, the dirty devices, and the 2 a.m. server restarts. By now, you're probably asking, Sudo, why do we even do this? Is the headache really better than the harvest? When that feeling of it's too much hits, here's how I try to fight it. First, you've got to reframe the friction as intentionality. In the IT world, they talk about frictionless design as the gold standard. But in our personal lives, frictionless usually just means we've automated your consent. When my browser breaks a site because of a tracker, I've started looking at that not as a bug, but as a diagnostic report. It's a browser saying, hey, this site wanted to talk to 6 people you didn't invite. When you reframe that inconvenience as a security alert, sometimes it stops being a nuisance and starts being a win. You aren't breaking the web. You're seeing the web for what it actually is. Next up is the automotive analogy. I spend a lot of time under the hood of my car. It would be more convenient to drive a brand new car with a warranty, right? But then I'd have a car that I can't repair myself and that's constantly phoning home with my GPS data. I fight the inconvenience of my old car because I like knowing exactly how the gears turn. Privacy tech is the same. Yeah, you have to change the oil on your Docker containers. Yeah, you have to tune the suspension on your GrapheneOS settings. But the reward is ownership. You don't just use the tech, you own it. Next up, you've got to set a maintenance window. This is a pro tip from the IT world. Stop troubleshooting in real time. If an app breaks while I'm out with the family, I don't fix it then. I switch to my dirty browser, finish the task, and make a note to look at it on Saturday night. If you try to fix your privacy stack every time it hiccups during your real life, you're just going to end up hating the tech. Treat your home lab like a professional environment. Don't push updates or major fixes during family production hours. And last, celebrate the silent victories. We only notice the privacy tech when it breaks. We don't notice it when it works. You have to remind yourself of the wins. The creepy targeted ad that didn't show up because you used an alias. The data breach notification, like the PayPal one, where you realize, wait, they don't even have my real address. These are the moments where the tax you've been paying finally yields a dividend. Privacy is like automotive maintenance. You can do the oil changes and the suspension work yourself. I know I do it in my car. But sometimes you just need the car to drive. Don't let the convenience tax bankrupt your happiness. I'm Sudo. Thanks for tuning in to Impractical Privacy. If you've got a story about a time your privacy settings absolutely ruined your day, email me because I want to hear it. Until next week, stay safe, stay private, even when it's a pain. Oh, and one last thing before you go. An optimist, a pessimist, and an engineer walk into a bar. The bartender sets down a glass that's filled exactly to the halfway mark. The optimist says, the glass is half full. The pessimist says, the glass is half empty. The engineer looks at it, sighs, and says, actually, the glass is twice as large as it needs to be. I'll catch you next time.